There's a moment right before your world shatters when everything feels unnervingly still. I was standing in our sunlit kitchen, stirring sugar into my coffee when the message came through. 7 words that unraveled 12 years of marriage. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Her mug was still in the sink. That's what I remember most clearly even now. Emma's favorite pale ceramic one with the chipped rim and faint lipstick stain. It hadn't been washed, just left there, careless, like a footprint in fresh snow. I stood staring at it longer than I should have, the spoon in my hand tapping absently against the side of my cup, my phone buzzing softly on the counter beside me. I almost didn't check it. I was already running late for work, still half-dressed, mentally cataloging meetings and tasks and whether I'd remember to send the quarterly report. But then I saw her name on the screen. Emma. And beneath it, those words. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. That was all. No punctuation. No explanation. Just a digital ghost of something about to unravel. I stared at the message like it was written in another language, reading it over and over, trying to decode what I already knew in my gut. There's a particular kind of silence that comes after betrayal, the kind that doesn't rush in with noise but with absence. Like the air's been sucked out of the room and your body hasn't caught up yet. I felt that silence coil around my chest as I leaned against the counter, the tiled floor suddenly ice beneath my bare feet. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. I just stood there, the coffee cooling in my hand, the sugar never stirred. That was the moment I knew. I didn't need more words. I didn't need a confession. I had already seen it in her eyes. For weeks, maybe months, something had been pulling her away from me. At first, I thought it was work, long hours at the gallery, late-night installations, new clients with impossible demands. Then I thought it was me. That maybe I'd become too predictable, too dull in my routines, too settled in the quiet comfort of our life. But there had been signs. Of course there had. I just didn't want to see them. The way she started guarding her phone like it held state secrets. The way her laughter, once so open and full, became something distant and private. The scent of unfamiliar cologne on her coat once, so faint I nearly convinced myself it was a mistake. The nights she came home hours after she said she would, cheeks flushed, not from cold or wine, but from something else. I didn't ask. I told myself I trusted her. That's what marriage is, right? Trust. But trust is easy until it isn't. I stood there in that kitchen, staring at that message, thinking about all the little things I'd dismissed, late nights, short answers, cold shoulders. I remember the last time we made love. How absent she felt. Like her body was there but her soul had already packed a bag and left. I picked up my phone with shaking fingers, rereading her words again. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. A single tear rolled down my cheek, not from sadness but from the sheer weight of understanding. I wasn't blindsided. Not really. I'd just been unwilling to look directly at the truth. I typed back a single word. Who? No response. That day passed in a haze. I went through the motions, showered, dressed, made it to the office, but I couldn't focus. Every email I sent was a garbled string of letters. Every face I passed was just a blur. My mind was trapped in a different timeline, one where Emma and I still laughed together at night, where she curled into my side on the couch, where the smell of her shampoo on my pillow didn't make my stomach turn. By the time I got home, the house felt colder. Emptier. She wasn't there. She hadn't come home. And she hadn't replied. I stood in our bedroom, staring at her side of the bed still perfectly made, her pillow undented. I reached into her nightstand drawer, half expecting to find a letter, a key, something that might explain everything. Instead, I found nothing. No note. No answers. Just emptiness. And silence. I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling like a stranger in my own life, and stared at the photo on her dresser, our wedding day. The sunlight in her eyes. The way her hand clutched mine like I was the only real thing in the world. I remember that version of her so vividly it hurts. I don't know when she changed. Or if she ever really was who I thought she was. I slept alone that night. Or rather, I laid there, eyes wide open, haunted by images my mind kept offering her with someone else, her smile meant for another, her body curled around a secret. When the sun rose, she still hadn't texted back. And I knew that what we had was already gone. You can live with someone for over a decade, share meals, laughter, and a bed and still not see the truth until it's tearing through your chest like shrapnel. The worst part isn't the betrayal itself. It's realizing how long they've been practicing the lie right in front of you. She came home the next evening. Not with shame. Not with tears. Not with the trembling voice of someone who had made a mistake and wanted to make it right. She walked in like it was any other night. Set her keys in the bowl by the door. Took off her shoes, kicked them lazily into the corner. shrugged off her coat like she wasn't carrying the weight of a marriage she'd shattered in silence. She looked at me sitting on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes, and offered a casual, "Hey." That was the moment I felt something in me snap. "Who is he?" I asked. She paused barely, like the question had caught in her throat. But then she exhaled and walked toward the kitchen. "Don't do this now, Liam. Now." As if there was ever going to be a better time to pull the knife from my chest and see whose name was carved into the blade. "Emma," I said, standing, my voice shaking, "don't walk away from me. Not after that message. Not after everything." She turned, slowly, leaning against the counter like it was the only thing holding her upright. But her face, God, her face was calm. Too calm. It was like watching someone recite lines they'd rehearsed 100 times in the mirror. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said softly. "It just did." My breath caught. I'd braced for anger, for guilt, for anything resembling remorse. But what I got was indifference. "Who is he?" She looked down. "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me." Silence stretched between us like a cracked mirror. And then she whispered it. "Jason." The name felt like poison in my mouth. I'd heard it before, one of the names she'd mentioned casually over dinner, some guy from work. A passing reference. A joke about his loud laugh. The way he always brought donuts to morning meetings. I never saw the danger in him. Never saw the way her eyes lingered a second longer when she said his name. "How long?" Her gaze met mine. Cold. Flat. 8 months. 8 months. I stumbled back a step like the words had punched me. 8 months. That meant every kiss, every touch, every laugh we shared in that time had been laced with her silence. She'd been loving someone else while pretending to love me. And she was good at pretending. "You were going to tell me eventually?" I asked. "I didn't know how." "You texted me." I shouted, my voice cracking. "You sent a 7-word message like you were canceling dinner plans, Emma. You didn't even have the guts to say it to my face." That shook her. For a second. Her lips tightened. Her hands trembled as she crossed her arms. "You want me to say I'm sorry? Fine. I'm sorry. But it doesn't change anything, Liam. It's over. It's been over for a long time. We were just pretending." Pretending. There it was. The word that shattered everything. Pretending. I looked around the living room. The bookshelf we built together. The couch where we'd fallen asleep tangled in each other. The wall of framed photos, birthdays, vacations, stolen moments that had once felt like forever. All of it. A stage set for a life she didn't believe in anymore. "Why didn't you just leave?" I asked, quieter now. The kind of quiet that comes after a scream. "Because I didn't want to hurt you." I laughed then. A bitter, hollow sound that didn't belong to me. "You didn't want to hurt me. So you lied. For 8 months. She didn't respond. Just turned and started walking toward the hallway. And that was when I said it. "Did you love him while you were still in bed with me?" She stopped. Her back was to me, but I saw it, the way her shoulders tensed, the way her hands balled into fists. Then, without turning around, she said, "I didn't think about you at all." The door to our bedroom closed behind her. And I stood there, staring at the empty space she left behind, the echo of her words clawing at the walls of my chest. "I didn't think about you at all." There's a certain kind of pain that doesn't make you cry. It's too deep for that. It sits inside you like stone, cold, unmoving, heavy. I sank to the floor, the room spinning around me, and for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be truly alone. Not physically. Existentially. I had been erased. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, phone in hand, staring at old messages from her. From the version of her that used to send me photos of sunsets and coffee mugs and dogs she passed on the street. The version of her that used to say, "Come home soon and I miss your face." That version was gone. In her place was someone I didn't recognize. Someone who could burn down 12 years with one quiet spark and walk away without flinching. I thought about what I was supposed to do now. Pack a bag? Leave the house I helped build? Let her and Jason move in while I pretended not to care? I could feel it, this pressure building inside me. The need to do something. To reclaim some shred of dignity. To remind myself that I existed. That I mattered. But revenge wasn't what I wanted. Not yet. What I wanted was the truth. The full truth. Because I knew Emma. And if she'd been hiding an affair this long, there was more. There had to be. You don't go looking for proof unless you already know it's there. That's the cruel irony of suspicion. It doesn't grow in the dark. It blooms under light. And once you've seen the truth, even a glimpse, you can't unsee it. You can't unknow what they did to you. Emma was gone when I woke up. Just like that. No note. No explanation. Just her side of the bed smoothed over like she never existed there in the first place. It was funny, in a sick kind of way, how clean the space looked without her. Sterile. Silent. Like the rest of the house, now that I was alone. I sat up slowly, every muscle aching like I'd gone 12 rounds in a fight. And maybe I had. A fight I didn't sign up for. One where the only blows thrown were words, glances, and lies layered so thinly they felt like air until you inhaled them and choked. Her closet was half empty. I opened it on instinct and it hit me immediately. The missing coats. Her favorite boots. The perfume bottle that used to sit on the top shelf. Gone. She wasn't staying with a friend. She was gone. And she'd planned it. That realization slithered through my stomach like ice. She had packed while I was home. Moved her things while we were still eating dinner, still sharing toothpaste, still pretending to be husband and wife. Like a con artist cleaning out the vault before the mark even realizes there was a heist. I moved through the house like a stranger, opening drawers, searching, not for anything in particular, just something. Some remnant of who we used to be. Some crack in the mask she wore so well. I didn't find anything until I got to the garage. Her car was still parked there. That stopped me cold. She took everything else. Why not the car? I pulled open the driver's side door and slid into the seat, the familiar scent of her shampoo still lingering in the upholstery. It felt like sitting inside a ghost. For a moment, I just sat there, my hands gripping the steering wheel like it could steer me back to a version of my life that still made sense. Then I started searching. It felt wrong. Intrusive. But then again, so was betrayal. The glove box was cluttered with old receipts and expired registration. Lip balm. A crumpled scarf. Nothing unusual. I checked the side door pockets. Nothing. But when I reached under the driver's seat, my fingers brushed against something cold. A phone. Not her phone. A second one. I pulled it out slowly like I'd just unearthed a bone from a shallow grave. It was an older model. Scratched. Slightly dented. It powered on without a password. Unlocked. She hadn't even bothered to protect it. Or maybe she thought I'd never find it. The home screen lit up and I felt my stomach twist. One messaging app. One contact. No name. Just a single letter, J. Jason. I opened the message thread and started scrolling. I thought I was prepared. I thought nothing she could have said or done would shock me now. I was wrong. The texts were raw. Not just romantic or flirty. Not just the kind of thing that makes your chest tighten and your vision go blurry. They were intimate. Detailed. Unfiltered. I can still taste you. You left a mark on my skin. I'm lying next to him, but I'm thinking of you. When he touched me last night, I pretended it was you. Line after line. Night after night. While I was folding laundry, fixing leaky faucets, booking weekend getaways to keep the spark alive, this is what she was doing. She wasn't just cheating. She was rewriting our marriage from the inside out. Making me the footnote to a story I thought I was the co-author of. Photos followed. Not explicit, but still intimate enough to make me want to hurl the phone across the garage. Hotel rooms. A beach I didn't recognize. Her in a sundress I'd never seen. Him holding the camera, his arm wrapped around her waist like he owned her. There was a video. I couldn't bring myself to open it. I just sat there, staring at the screen, shaking. Not with rage. Not yet. What I felt was worse than rage. I felt erased. I left the car, the phone in my jacket pocket like a ticking bomb, and went inside. My legs moved without thinking. My heart was pounding, but the rest of me felt numb, like I'd left parts of myself behind in that garage. Back in the house, I opened my laptop. I needed answers. Not from her. Not anymore. From the little digital trail she thought she'd covered. I checked her email first. The one she used for spam and store coupons. The one she assumed I never looked at. That's where I found it. A real estate inquiry. A beachfront property. Small but expensive. In Maui. Not exactly a subtle escape plan. There were other emails, back and forths with someone named Evan, a broker who had clearly been helping her and Jason plan their dream life under fake names. The address on the application? A P.O. Box 2 towns over. The deposit? $75,000. My money. Our money. Gone. It was around midnight when I sat back in my chair, the screen's light the only thing illuminating the room. The rest of the house was dark, quiet, sterile. Like it had given up on pretending it was a home. I should have felt broken. But I didn't. Something else was blooming in my chest. Something sharp. Focus. Emma was gone. But not far enough. Not cleanly. She left pieces behind. And I was going to gather everyone. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry or send some sad text begging for closure. She thought I was the type to unravel. What she didn't know was that betrayal doesn't just wound. Sometimes it sharpens you. There's a line we all think we'll never cross until someone drags us to the edge and dares us to look down. I wasn't built for vengeance. I was built for forgiveness, for reason, for understanding. But the man I was before? He died the moment I found that second phone. I didn't call her. I didn't scream. Didn't send the texts I drafted 100 times and deleted just as fast. I didn't want her apologies, her excuses, her tired line about not meaning to hurt me. What I wanted was for her to see me, not the man she betrayed, not the husband she abandoned, but the man she'd underestimated. For once, I wanted her to feel something. Not guilt, not regret, fear. So I waited. I waited 3 days. Not because I needed time, but because she needed to believe I was broken. Because someone like Emma, someone that calculated, doesn't run unless they think they're being chased. I wanted her calm, comfortable, unaware that I was already halfway to detonating the little paradise she was building with Jason. I contacted a lawyer. I handed over the photos, the texts, the emails, the bank transfers. Her financial trail was a map made in breadcrumbs, and I collected every single crumb. The account in Maui had her name on it. And Jason's. Big mistake. They were planning to buy a property using marital funds. While married. And in my state? That's not just betrayal. That's fraud. I met her in public. A little cafe on 7th she used to love back when love still meant something. She walked in wearing sunglasses and a silk scarf like she was trying to look casual but came off as performative instead. She spotted me at the back table and paused. Maybe it was the look on my face. Maybe it was the folder on the table. She sat down slowly. You wanted to talk? She asked, as if this was a post-breakup check-in, not a reckoning. I slid the folder across the table. Open it. She hesitated, then flipped it open. I watched her skim the first page, the property deed draft with her and Jason's names on it. Her shoulders tensed. She turned to the next page. And the next. The bank transactions. The texts. The screenshots. Everything. I know everything, I said quietly. I know about Maui. I know about the joint account. I know you used our money. Emma didn't say a word. Her eyes flicked from page to page, her mouth tightening. I also know, I continued, that you planned to file for divorce from Hawaii. After you disappeared. After the money was gone. She looked up sharply. Who told you that? I smiled. You did. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the second phone. Emma's breath caught. I found this in your car. You really should have locked it. Silence stretched between us. Her face was pale. Her hands were trembling slightly as she picked up the coffee mug in front of her just to keep them from shaking. What do you want, Liam? And there it was. Not I'm sorry. Not let me explain. Just what do you want? I want you to admit it, I said, leaning forward. Say it out loud. That you cheated. That you lied. That you stole from me. Her lips parted. But no words came. So I said it for her. You walked away from a man who would have done anything for you. You fed me a fantasy while you built a life behind my back. You kissed me with his name in your mouth. And now? You're going to lose everything. Emma swallowed. You can't prove yes. I can. I tapped the folder. This is enough for a judge to strip you of any claim to our assets. You committed financial fraud, Emma. You're not just walking away from this marriage, you're walking into a courtroom. Her mask cracked then. Just for a second. Her mouth opened like she wanted to plead, but the words didn't come. Maybe she was still trying to calculate. Still searching for a script that would make this go away. But I wasn't her audience anymore. I'm not going to ruin your life, I said. You already did that. I'm just making sure you don't get rewarded for it. Emma looked down at the papers again. Her face had gone blank. Like someone had hit the mute button on her emotions. I didn't plan to fall in love with him, she whispered. It just happened. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Then I hope it just happens that you figure out how to pay your own rent, because after this, you're not getting a dime from me. The fallout was quick. My lawyer filed the petition within 24 hours. The court order froze all joint accounts. The judge sided with me within minutes. Emma had no legal standing on any of the accounts tied to my name, and Jason's involvement only strengthened my case. Emma sent me one message that night. I made a mistake. I didn't respond. She made a choice. A few days later, I ran into Jason. It was accidental if you believe in accidents. He was walking out of a corner market, sunglasses on, phone in hand. I stepped in front of him before he could get into his car. Jason, I said. He turned. His smile faltered. You're Liam, he said, already knowing. Yeah, I replied. I'm the husband. He straightened up like he was bracing for a punch. But I didn't throw one. Instead, I leaned in and said, good luck. You just inherited a liar, a thief, and a runaway. I hope you like sleeping with one eye open." Then I walked away. That night, I stood in the doorway of what used to be our bedroom. The sheets were new. The air was different. The scent of her was gone. I didn't feel relieved. Not yet. But I felt clean. And that was a start. People think betrayal ends when the other person walks out. That once the shouting fades and the papers are signed, the storm is over. But they don't tell you about the silence that follows. The kind that doesn't echo, it absorbs you. You speak into it and nothing comes back. The first thing I noticed after she left wasn't her absence. It was the sound. Not a loud one. The lack of one. No running water from her side of the sink. No blow-dryer humming in the hallway. No muffled music drifting from the shower as she sang half-heartedly through her morning routine. Just stillness. It was the quiet of a space that had been hollowed out by lies. And once I noticed it, I couldn't unhear it. It was everywhere, in the creak of the hallway floor, in the ticking of the wall clock, in the space between the end of a movie and the next breath. I lived inside that silence for days. People checked in. Friends. My sister. A few coworkers who had heard whispers and didn't quite know what to say. They brought casseroles and six-packs and words like, "You'll get through this," or "better now than later." I thanked them. Smiled. Nodded. But inside, I wasn't getting through anything. I was just trying to understand what the hell I'd lived through. I started cleaning. Not because I'm neat by nature, but because scrubbing the smell of her out of the curtains felt like some small rebellion. I boxed up the picture frames, tucked away the wedding album, donated her books and shoes and that coat she loved that I always hated but never said anything about. I left her nightstand empty. Let it stare at me. Let it remind me what she took. I never realized how much space a person could occupy without even trying. Until she was gone. The nights were the worst. That's when the house turned against me. Her side of the bed felt like an open wound. The dresser still held a few forgotten earrings and a note she'd written months ago on the back of a grocery list. "Don't forget milk, and I love you more than coffee." I read it so many times I memorized the way her pen curled around the letter L. And every time I asked myself the same thing, was she already lying when she wrote this? One evening, I sat on the back porch, a glass of whiskey sweating in my hand, watching the sun fold itself into the horizon. That used to be her thing, sunset and silence. Back when the silence meant comfort, not loss. The air smelled like cut grass and the faint remnants of rain. And out of nowhere, I cried. Not like a breakdown. Not theatrical. Just quiet tears. Like something inside me had finally admitted it was grieving, not her, but the version of myself that existed before I knew what betrayal tasted like. I didn't miss Emma. I missed the man who believed her. I started therapy. I won't pretend it was some grand awakening. I walked in arms crossed, shoulders tight, already convinced it wouldn't work. But my therapist, Marcus, wasn't the type to prod or dissect. He just listened. And slowly, I talked. About the guilt. About how I didn't see it coming. About how I hated myself for not seeing it. And more than that, how much I hated that I still checked her social media late at night, searching for signs she missed me, signs she'd failed, signs she was miserable. Do you want her to hurt? Marcus asked me once. I sat with that for a long time. No, I finally said. I just don't want to be the only one who's haunted. The legal side wrapped up faster than I expected. She didn't contest anything. Didn't ask for the house. Didn't ask for a cent. My lawyer said it was probably guilt or fear or maybe just the fact that Jason wasn't who she thought he was and she was too proud to come crawling back. The last email I ever got from her was 2 lines. "I'm sorry I couldn't be who you needed. I hope you find someone who deserves you." I stared at it for a long time. Then deleted it. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need it anymore. I didn't need her version of closure. I was already building mine. One day I walked past the mirror in the hallway and had to stop. Not because I looked good or bad, but because I looked different. Like someone I hadn't seen in a while. My eyes were clearer. My face less drawn. There was something in my reflection I hadn't felt in months. Steadiness. I was still hurting. Still healing. But I was standing. And that mattered. There's a park down the road where the trees lean just enough to make a tunnel of shade over the path. Emma and I used to walk there in spring, hand in hand, pretending we were still falling in love. I walked it alone for the first time a few weeks after the papers were finalized. Halfway through, I sat on a bench and watched a couple pass by, young, laughing, tangled in each other like they didn't know the world could pull them apart yet. I didn't feel envy. I didn't feel sadness. I just hoped they'd never find themselves sitting where I was, watching a love they once believed in dissolve like fog. They say healing isn't linear. They're right. Some days you wake up feeling free, like the weight is finally off your chest. Other days you trip over a memory and fall back into the silence like you never left. But eventually, the grief becomes background noise. And in its place, something else starts to grow. I didn't mark the day the divorce was finalized. There was no bottle of champagne, no symbolic tossing of rings into the ocean. I didn't even open the letter when it arrived. Just tossed it in the kitchen drawer between old takeout menus and expired coupons. It didn't matter. Not really. Because the ending didn't come on paper. It came the moment I stopped looking for an apology she'd never give. The moment I realized that closure wasn't something I'd get, it was something I had to create. I started running again. It had been years. The last time I ran regularly was before Emma and I got serious, before work and dinner parties and married life filled every gap in my schedule. I dusted off my old sneakers, found them exactly where I'd left them at the back of the closet, and started small. 10 minutes. Just enough to shake the sleep from my legs and get my heart to remember how to beat for me. I ran through streets I hadn't walked in years. Past houses that still smelled like old leaves and memory. Past the bookstore where Emma and I once argued over whether we should get a cat. Past the bakery where I proposed. I thought those places would destroy me. But they didn't. They just reminded me that not every good moment turns bitter. Some of them just end. And that's okay. I got coffee with a friend of mine, Rachel, someone I hadn't seen in nearly a year. She hugged me tight when we met, a little longer than necessary, and I felt something in my chest loosen. "You look better," she said, tilting her head, eyes kind. "Like, lighter?" I smiled. "That's the divorce glow." She laughed. "Whatever it is, it suits you." We didn't talk about Emma much. Just once, in passing. "She never really deserved you," Rachel said quietly, stirring sugar into her tea. I didn't respond. Not because I disagreed, but because I was done giving Emma space in my conversations. She didn't belong in the future I was starting to build. The house changed too. Not all at once, but in small, quiet ways. I repainted the hallway. Got rid of that ugly beige color she always insisted looked neutral and calming. I replaced the couch, rearranged the living room, put a record player in the corner and started collecting vinyl again. There was something therapeutic about reclaiming the space. About touching every inch of it and saying, "This is mine now." The bedroom took the longest. That space had held so many ghosts. But one morning I stripped the bed, bought new sheets, navy, not the pale gray she liked, and moved the nightstand to the other side. That night I slept better than I had in months. One evening I found a photo of us, tucked into an old journal I hadn't opened in years. It was from our honeymoon. She was laughing, I squinting against the sun, holding up a melting ice cream cone like a trophy. My arm was around her waist. I stared at it for a long time. And for the first time I didn't feel anger. Or betrayal. Or grief. I just felt gratitude. Because for a little while it was real. For a little while I loved her. And maybe she even loved me too. And even if it ended in ash, I'd still had fire in my hands once. That meant something. The biggest surprise, though? I started to forgive her. Not for her sake. For mine. Because carrying the weight of what she did was exhausting. And every time I fed that resentment, I kept her closer than she deserved to be. Letting go wasn't weakness. It was self-preservation. I forgave her the way you forgive a storm for flooding your home. Not because it didn't destroy something, but because hating the rain won't rebuild the walls. One morning, a few months later, I was standing in line at the grocery store, just another normal Tuesday, when I heard someone say my name. Soft. Hesitant. I turned. She was standing 2 people behind me. Wearing a navy coat, hair tucked behind her ear, holding a basket of vegetables and a carton of almond milk. Emma. Time moved strange in that moment. Too slow and too fast. She looked older. Or maybe I just saw her more clearly. "Liam," she said again, almost breathless. I nodded. "Hey." She smiled, tentative. "You look good." I looked down at the groceries in my hands. Eggs. Bread. A bottle of wine. "I am good." Her smile faltered a little. "I'm glad," she said finally. "Really?" And maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't. But it didn't matter. I nodded once more, paid for my things, and walked out into the sunlight. I didn't look back. That night, I sat on the back porch again. Same glass. Same quiet. But the air felt different. Not heavy. Just full. There was no more storm. Just after light. That gentle, golden hush that comes once the thunder is gone. The part where the world feels still and honest and new. I breathed it in, and for the first time I felt free. Not from her, but from who I was when she broke me.